Welcome to the Sharkpreneur podcast with Kevin Harrington and Seth Greene. Kevin Harrington is the inventor of the infomercial, one of the original sharks from the hit TV show Shark Tank, and has generated over $5 billion in TV and digital direct response sales. Seth Greene is the world's first trusted authority on cutting-edge direct response marketing, a best-selling author, and the only 3-time Marketer of the Year nominee. On the podcast, Kevin and Seth interview sharkpreneurs who share straight talk on what it takes to explode your business.
Why do so many businesses struggle while others seem to explode overnight? Do you wish you had the secret to this type of exponential growth? Now, I've scaled more than 20 businesses to over $100 million, and it's not just luck. In my new book with Mark Tim, Mentor to Millions, you'll learn the repeatable framework I use in all my business ventures for massive success. Order at kevinmentor.com and get over $1,000 in bonuses. Head to kevinmentor.com.
Welcome to the podcast. This is your host, Seth Greene. Today, I have the good fortune to be interviewing Chris Hanna from Allen Wealth. Chris, I'm not even going to do his bio because I won't do it justice because he's got such a fascinating story. Chris, thanks so much for joining us.
Sure, Seth. Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right. So tell us what happened 24 hours after you graduated college.
Yeah, I started counting cards, playing blackjack professionally with my college roommate. He and I just didn't want to go down some sort of traditional path. And for us, the way forward was to count cards and play blackjack.
Of course, that's what everybody thinks. I also probably nowhere near as well as you, but did count cards to help pay my way through college. So talk about how you went from that to working in a multi-billion-dollar hedge fund.
Yeah, well, that was that's when I was interning during college. The blackjack came afterwards.
Okay.
But during college, for several years, my goal was to work in an investment bank after school. And then once I got the behind the scenes look at the buy side of things at a hedge fund, I said, oh, I want to go work at a hedge fund. There's no way if I can help it that I want to go work in an investment bank. It's just two vastly different work environments. And then as I saw it was just like, that was one step towards a little bit more freedom being at a hedge fund rather than an investment bank. I was offered a job there, but for the 6 months leading up to college graduation, I had been practicing counting cards and playing blackjack professionally. So now you're talking about another leap in freedom. And I'm like, that's the way I got to go.
All right. So how does that then turn into 5 simultaneous gig jobs and Brazilian jiu-jitsu?
Well, jiu-jitsu had been a passion of mine before I went to college, and then I really couldn't pursue it when I was there. It just wouldn't have worked out the way I wanted it to. So blackjack was a way for me to work on my own time and travel and have some fun after school. But over time, it just wasn't a reliable and consistent source of income. There was just wild fluctuations. So I started picking up all this gig work, driving for Lyft and Uber, TaskRabbit, teaching, tutoring, babysitting, all this different stuff, which allowed me all the flexibility that I wanted to train Brazilian jiu-jitsu, sometimes 5 times a week and a couple times a day. So that was really my main driver at that point, was training Brazilian jiu-jitsu, which is the grappling martial arts in mixed martial arts.
Yes, I am a lifelong martial artist and a second-degree black belt in Krav Maga, and our ground game comes from Brazilian jiu-jitsu. So very familiar with that. How did that turn into helping UFC fighters and entrepreneurs manage their money?
Well, so after all those the gig jobs and the jiu-jitsu, that just became too much. It became overwhelming mentally and physically. And so I took a role, a more permanent role with a financial literacy organization. So as just one of my gig jobs, I was teaching these like after school stock market classes and financial literacy classes to students in grades K through 12. And once I decided that I wanted a bit more stability, I reached out to the guy who was just basically running this business by himself, teaching classes all over DC, Maryland, and Virginia. Well, not just him, but hiring instructors to teach. And so I took a role leading the operations and helping him build and expand that business. I did that for a while. And as I made a little bit more money, realized that I really just didn't know the first thing about personal finance, despite my degree in finance and economics and all this experience, with investing and all that, the little experience I had really. But I just dove deep into the rabbit hole that is personal finance, learned that, if I'm having trouble with it, and despite all my experience, that means there are a lot of other people that are having trouble with it. And as I began to sort of develop my own money management system in the way that made sense for me, I recognized that I could help other people with it. And so having just loved the UFC for years, I recognized that niche as a group of people that is only earning money maybe 2 or 3 times a year and really needs help managing their money.
And then how did you get into that market?
I hired a business coach, and I just didn't know the first thing about, online sales or business or anything like that. And she said, look, create your basic, program, the basic steps you want to take, transformation you want to take someone through, start putting content out on social media to develop a little bit of authority in the space, and then start cold outreach. And so that's what I was doing. I just started reaching out to these fighters, and that's how I got my first clients.
That is absolutely incredible. And then talk a little bit about how you've obviously come a long way since then. Talk a little bit about the journey.
Yeah. So that was very shortly after I started booking clients. It was exciting for sure, because it was my first real money as an entrepreneur with a business, as opposed to like gig work and blackjack. And that was exciting. But I very quickly realized that it wasn't the type of business that I wanted to run, in that I didn't want to build a business that was relying on my cold outreach. And I was just like, I don't know the first thing about marketing, but I want to learn more. And so for the last couple of years, I've severely limited my cold outreach and just forced myself to learn more about how to put out great content with good copy, capture leads, nurture them, et cetera, et cetera. And since then, this is, and the aside is that I happened to hop on TikTok. I shared some content, finance type stuff. One of them was talking about my blackjack experience, and that was the one that popped off. And so I just started making more and more content about blackjack, and I've just been having a whole lot of fun on that side of things as well.
Wow. Well, congratulations on that. What do you think some of the biggest mistakes are? Because obviously you branched out and you don't just work with UFC fighters anymore. Otherwise you'd be on a different show. You work with a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners. So what are some of the biggest mistakes they make when it comes to managing their money?
Well, most people in general, whether it's fighters or entrepreneurs, whoever it is, they are not proactively deciding what to do with their money. Like the money and money oftentimes just sits in one bank account. Whether you're an employee or an entrepreneur, it hits one bank account and then it just sits there until you spend it. When in reality, what you ought to be doing is not budgeting, not planning out every single line item of expense, but having categories of expenditures and savings and investments, and saying when this money hits and before I spend a dime of it, let me strategically decide what to do with it before I spend any of this money, so that I can ensure that I'm actually putting it to the use that will help you achieve your goals in the most effective way possible.
And then what are you finding are some of the biggest aha moments, that you're helping them have?
A couple things. So the first is the idea that you don't actually have to budget and track your expenses. This, even when we talk about financial literacy, one of the first things that people say is, oh yeah, we didn't learn about finance and financial literacy in school. We never learned how to budget. It's like, you don't need to know how to budget. You really don't. You need to know how to establish your financial foundation, which is the core tenet, the core elements that make up your financial life. From there, you can start, you can create a money management system, and you can automate it if possible. And you can also start exploring what it means to create financial freedom and build wealth, so that when that money hits, you can be strategic with it. And I would say the aha moments comes probably from each of those levels.
And how are you continuing to grow the firm now?
So now I am, I'm putting my finishing touches on the first draft of a course. So when I first started, it was just one-to-one coaching, and that had its limits in really my time and the amount of people that could actually work with me. And from the very, very beginning, as I recognized that I wanted to put more practical personal finance and money management advice out there, I knew that I wanted to make it lower cost for people. And so I'm just codifying everything that I've been doing over the last couple of years, throwing it into a course, making it a lot cheaper for people. And that's something I'm going to be putting out within the next probably month or so.
Well, that is awesome. Make sure to let us know about that so we can share it. Your passion is obvious. What do you like best about what you're doing?
Well, I love managing my own money. I've been wanting financial freedom since I was, I didn't call it that when I was younger, but I've just always wanted my independence, probably like a lot of entrepreneurs. And so the fact that I can be strategic with my money and, over the last several years, and it's gotten me to where I am today, I love helping other people do that as well. And learning about what they're doing for fun, because I love spontaneous adventures and road trips. And that's one of the best parts about just, making more money and being smart with it is you get to have more fun. And so I love helping people achieve that and then hearing about the fun that they're having in their own lives.
Absolutely. For our folks watching or listening who want to learn more, where is the best place for them to find you?
Website is chrisallenhanna.com. That's ALLEN and no H at the end of that, Hanna. But I'm having the most fun on TikTok. So I've been not so active in the last month or so, but I'm going to be back on shortly.
Awesome. And then you talk about putting out a course. How do you work with clients now? How does that process work?
Yeah, now it's just one-to-one, one-on-one coaching. And that's just what it's been over the last couple of years. So, whether it was my initial cold outreach or now as I've grown my TikTok, people are reaching out to me. But that's what it's been. And usually it's on a 6-month basis. Like I'll offer one-off 30-minute calls, but like you really just, it's so much more effective if we can cover the full bases. And we can really more implement coaching as opposed to short-term consulting. I would much rather take you through a process to help you get where you're trying to go rather than just give you a couple tips.
Awesome. I see the stack of books behind you. What are some of your favorites that have impacted your career the most?
Wow. Lots. I'll say most recently, The Psychology of Money. I don't know that that's impacted my career per se, but it's been the most fascinating book in the personal finance space that I think that has come out in the last several years. The Art and Business of Online Writing, just really, I don't know what the term is. I'd say not too many people know about it. And despite its title in writing, it's really about communicating in your messaging. And, one of the key takeaways is that speed is how you win on the internet and specificity is the secret. A couple key things that are sort of in the back of my mind as I'm doing all of my communication.
Those are good writer downers. Well, we know your time's incredibly valuable. We appreciate you spending some of it with us. This has been Seth Greene with Chris Hanna from Allen Wealth. Chris, thanks so much for joining us.
Sure. Thank you, Seth. I appreciate it.
Thanks everybody for watching or listening. We'll talk to you or see you next time.
Do you need money to fund your idea, product, or service? Are you ready to take your business to the next level, but need capital to get it done? Kevin Harrington has heard more than 50,000 pitches and knows how to help you make the perfect pitch to get the funding for your entrepreneurial dream. He's distilled the process down in his perfect pitch cheat sheet, and it's yours for free. Just text PITCH to him right now at 727-888-2100. Text PITCH to 727-888-2100 right now and claim your free perfect pitch cheat sheet. Text PITCH to 727-888-2100 to start funding your dream today.
This show has been produced by Market Domination, LLC. To discover how you can have your own show completely done for you and turn it into a real published book and become the authority in your marketplace, go to www.marketdominationllc.com/podcast offer.